The Metaverse is emerging as the next big technology platform and promises to be the next frontier for human experiences on the internet. Into the Metaverse covers companies, technologies, and trends that are bringing these promises to life. Join creator and host Jonathan Ross-Friedman, founder and CEO of Supersocial, as he interviews the brilliant minds that are building, shaping, and investing in the Metaverse.
Welcome to Into the Metaverse. I'm Yon, and I'm very excited to welcome today's guest, Darran Garnham, my dear friend, founder, and CEO of Toikido. Toikido is a London-based entertainment company at the cutting edge of digital design and toys. With a global reach, they have an ecosystem across licensing, gaming, music, and entertainment. Prior to Toikido, Darran spent 6 years at Mind Candy, the makers of Moshi Monsters, as their chief commercial officer and president of entertainment. And he also serves as an advisor and investor in companies in the gaming and technology industries. Darran, I'm so excited to welcome you on the podcast today.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Yes, long overdue, but never been a better time, and we'll talk about why is that. So I want to jump right into my favorite question before we talk about all things Toikido, Smashlings, etc. I want to start by asking a question I ask all guests, and I'm curious about your POV coming from the world of digital entertainment for so long, but also at the intersection of physical products, physical toys, and quote-unquote physical entertainment. This whole thing called the Metaverse, what do you think about it, and what does that mean for you from the lens you're coming at and your industry background?
Obviously, I've been knowing that we're going to be doing this. I've been thinking about this, and also I was thinking about my first experience of the Metaverse, and I'm going to take it back to MySpace. I think my first Metaverse experience was having a MySpace account and connecting with other people who were into the same music, into the same sport, and it comes down to community. And I think that for me is what this Metaverse space is finding your people as a dad of 3 very different kids. And obviously we're very mindful of Metaverse and online with children, but I can see where they're spending their time. Like the eldest is finding his editing community on TikTok because he edits these. It's not for me, but it's for him and his community. And then my middle kid's finding a swimming community. So for me, it's finding your people. And it's almost like a digital Comic-Con in so many ways. I remember the first time going to Comic-Con and the positivity of those people that they found each other. It was just an amazing community feel in San Diego, and then I've now been to them in London and in Dubai, and the feeling is the same all over.
It's interesting you mentioned the word community, given that when you think about these virtual worlds and what people do there, and let's take a moment back in history, right? We got to meet each other in London about probably over 10 years ago. I would say early 2013. You're a chief commercial officer of Mind Candy, the makers of Moshi Monsters, which at one point was a platform for kids to essentially socialize, play, and have fun together online, web-based, with about 100 million monthly active users. Huge. Everyone thought about Mind Candy as essentially the next Disney. And this podcast episode is not about the story of Mind Candy, but I remember that this was really a lot of things happened at that time with regards to online communities through game experiences for young people. You had Moshi Monsters, which was already pretty large and established. You had Minecraft that launched in 2012 and overnight became a sensation. Although it's not for kids until today, many of Minecraft users are actually above 45 years of age. Then you had Roblox picking up in 2015, and the rest is history, right? Alongside that, you also had people starting to generate content on Minecraft, on different mods. Again, not something that was invented in the 2010s. We had it all the way back to Dune, right, with ID Software in the 90s. But nonetheless, in a much more immersive. And of course, we had Club Penguin, which, was acquired by Disney and ultimately became obsolete as well. So nothing new is happening. We've always had communities online. But I think what's happening now is that there is a greater sense of presence. These are massive, large, multiplayer 3D game worlds. And it brings me to the next question, which is when you think about building next generation properties, entertainment characters, properties for kids, for young people at the intersection of digital and physical, which is core to what Toikido is aspiring to do. What is sort of the genesis that you started the company with, and where do you want to take Toikido within that frontier?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, Toikido was born out of wanting to move faster in this space. And we pivoted slightly. I mean, we started off as really taking other people's IP and building out the merchandise plan and physical merchandise, etc., which we still do. I love it. I love working with non-Toikido IP. I think you learn a lot from other people. I love working with founders, particularly game founders, and seeing that moment when we brought their digital IP to life. I mean, we did it with Among Us. When we met the Among Us team, it was a phenomenally successful 2D game, which the Toikido team then did all of the 3D work to then take it into physical merchandise in over 70 countries and 20 million plus products. One of the reasons that was so successful is the community felt that they had almost ownership of some of those characters because they could play as those characters. I was down at Kidscreen, which some of the people viewing this will know Kidscreen's a big media conference in Miami for animation and more so now digital as well. I mean, the Roblox team were there this time. One of the things that I said, controversially or not, is that you want to be in the hands of your audience. It's not enough now to be on the screen for your audience. And what I mean by that is if you look at my youngest boy is 4 years old, he loves these Peppa Pigs and Paw Patrols and these amazing shows, but more so he likes to play them. And he likes to feel that he's controlling the narrative and the characters, and it's not enough anymore just to watch it. They want to feel ownership of it. So for Toikido, that's what we want to do. Everything we're doing, and we'll obviously talk about Smashlings, but every IP we're developing, we want the person watching it to feel some sort of control over whether it be the story or another way to interact. It's not to say, Yon, that we won't do animation, because we are, because there's absolutely a need for it. I mean, you mentioned Mind Candy. I remember being in a meeting where somebody said that TV's dead, this is the future, and TV's never going to die. There's a reason that most people's homes are still, that sofas are centered around something in the corner or something on the wall. But there's a reason for that. But it might just be a different way of consuming that content now. But yeah, everything we do, we start with the way that we can connect with the audience. Is it toyetic? Is there story? Is there depth? Is there a digital play that we can bring to it? And listen, we're a passionate team of creatives, and we want to continue with that.
Let's take a step higher in the conversation for a few minutes before we dig back in on Toikido and talk about what is this intersection of community, technology, sense of expression, and creativity that you've mentioned about your younger. What do you think that means for the toy industry, for the industries that serve youth and kids?
It means that a lot of them are failing. And I don't mean that negatively. I mean that when I first started in this industry, which was 20 years ago, you would have 4 movies a year, maybe. And so you'd have time and space for planning and execution. Now you have 20 movies a year, maybe, from the big studios. A few will break out. The resurgence of gaming. I mean, I'm loving this. I'm loving where we are at the moment in IP that isn't mine, but I'm loving watching Pokemon continuing, Mario seeing this huge boom from Illumination Studios. And I think that what we're seeing is, again, I go back to there's a dual audience for these things. There's me who played Mario when I was a kid who loved that movie when it came out, and then there's my own kids that have been playing Mario more recently, but could still feel that empathy to the characters. But I think the industry, a lot of the industry can't move as quick as the themes move and as quick as the audience are moving. I mean, you only have to look at the TikTok generation that are just scrolling, the thumb scrolling, constant thumb scrolling, and what's going to be next. I mean, the industry, it sort of makes me smile when I see this is coming back and this is coming back and this is coming back. It's actually, no, let's have a look where the kids are at the moment. There's some brilliant people out there doing it right, and you'll know that the team at Invisible Universe, who are doing some great things in the moment now and looking to reach into that community now, because that's and I'm talking about kids, but not only kids, us as well. I mean, a great working example, the two, I would say, if you look at maybe what we would have maybe watched. One was Squid Games, which blew up overnight, and the merch wasn't, there was no merchandise, there was no strategy, that it wasn't there. And there was a window of opportunity around that, but the content was chewed so quickly. And then more recently, Wednesday, which has been great on Netflix, which a lot of people are now chasing, and it'll be fine because there's a season 2. So there'll be time to recuperate that opportunity. But yeah, I think the challenge is just the speed at which stuff moves now. And if you don't feed we both know this. Just before we jumped on there, we were talking about content and updates, but if you don't have, for me, if you don't have constant updates, or you don't have constant tools for your community to build, then they're going to start looking for something else.
I like to say that, building on this point, I like to say that every brand, I believe, no matter what they do, you can be a cosmetics brand, a toy brand, a luxury brand, and it's already starting. But I think by the end of this decade, there's not going to be a consumer brand around the world that doesn't have a quote-unquote live ops strategy and a live ops execution, because we live in a world that no matter where you live, that scrolling is a reflection of a never-ending information flow, constant engagement, and the brands and the companies that will win are going to be the ones that figure out how do you stay relevant, but in a meaningful way, not in a pushy way, not in a way that is extractive of money. Because I think you talked about it, community. Community is not just a sense of socialization in my mind. Community is also how do you constantly make the audience feel that they want to be connected to your brand.
There are marketeers of Fortune 500 companies that are pulling their hair out at what Logan Paul and KSI have done and the team at Prime. Like just pulling their hair out at this constant reinvention of the way to connect with the community. And again, I see it in my own household. I saw that pop in terms of demand and almost fever pitch in terms of keeping demand short. But now the supply is reaching the demand. The constant continuation of ways that they're reaching their audience in fun ways. I mean, to see last weekend, Logan Paul on WWE and KSI throwing him a bottle of Prime. I mean, it's those subtle, brilliant ways to connect with their audience. It is fantastic.
So let's switch gears and talk about one of the biggest platforms ever built that manifests a lot of what we're talking about, that sense of presence, that sense of belonging, that sense of creation with youth and young people. Let's talk about Roblox, a company that started in 2008, right? 15 years ago, maybe even before, but really, really, really only started to pick up after 2015 and 2016, and really only started to be taken seriously in 2020 with COVID arriving and accelerating the adoption of Roblox. I remember when Supersocial, when we started the company, June 2020, Roblox had about 22 million daily active users. Now it's at 66 million. We're talking about tripling the amount of, not tripling from 1 to 3 million, from 22 to 66 in one of the most competitive and fiercest spaces, which is social media at large. And we talked when I started the company, and ultimately that evolved into an amazing partnership, which we'll talk about on the podcast today. But you have kids that have been on the Roblox platform for years. What do you think is some of the fundamentals that Roblox has as a platform that makes it so relevant and so unique, and that relevancy and uniqueness is only increasing?
Just constant newness, and I see it from particularly my eldest boy Freddie. I mean, we're quite liberal parents. He has his own YouTube channel, and he does content videos, and but what I saw from him was he was obsessed with Jailbreak. This was the first time I really saw the power of this platform. And I could see him in this game constantly, and he was communicating with people, and he was learning about cars, and he was learning about different things. But what I saw from him was the content that he was able to make from that platform that then other people wanted to watch as well. And I think for me, that's what Roblox is giving us. It's not just the brilliant brand experiences that, I mean, you guys at Supersocial are doing great things in cosmetics as well as kids. I mean, it's an amazing span. But to see so many activities, and it's also the ability to get on, the barriers to entry are low as well. And again, I mean, Freddie, listen, he's 12, but he's acutely aware that he could make a game and it can become as successful as the money that you and I are spending to make what we're doing. And I think that's for me, that's what I love. Some of the animation that I see, not only my own kids, but which you see the market watching, it's not the $100 million Hollywood budget. I mean, some of it's absolute sketchy, but the story is right and the way they're connected to the audience is right. And that's what this is why I love Roblox personally, is because it's given everybody opportunity to develop, to communicate, and to express themselves. And I mean, it's just amazing that it's given the next generation of developers their lifestyle. It's given them their jobs. It's given this platform's not going to slow down.
They're friends. I mean, one of the things that it's interesting that you've mentioned that one of the things that when I talk to people and they ask, now Fortnite Creative launched UEFN, which I'm very excited about and I'm very bullish on, and I think it's a really interesting play, and there's definitely more to come, I'm sure, from Epic Games on that front. But one of the first thing, and I remember being at GDC, one of the first thing that a lot of people in the game industry said, oh, this is it. This is the Roblox killer. And I said, and my immediate reaction was, you guys have no idea what you're talking about. If you think that just because Epic Games launched a more complex, more capable engine on top of Fortnite Creative, that will kill Roblox, you do not understand what is Roblox and why it's unique. And one of the most fundamental things about Roblox that I believe is really unique, on top of everything else that you've mentioned, is that if you look at the Roblox developer community, and if you come to Roblox Developer Conference, for example, you realize that the Roblox developer community, it's a cult. It's not a developer community. And the reason it's a cult is because it's composed of mostly young people who started playing as kids at your age, at your kids' age, became developers and very quickly realized that's what they want to do in life. Now, we employ a lot of these developers. Of course, there's way many more people in the platform who are not employed by Supersocial, but what we've learned is how powerful that cult feel is. And you've mentioned it's not just their inspiration, their community, their work. Many of them, most of their friends grew up with them on the Roblox platform, meeting virtually. And I think it's almost like you can't really mimic or copy that type of ecosystem because it took 15 years to build for a reason. And I think that is part of what's so unique. Now, let's layer that on top of the users community and the content. Now you have a whole community of people who are a cult around the platform, and that's a big part of that flywheel. So when people look at Roblox from the entertainment industry, I think they still haven't flipped the page on what exactly the platform could mean for their IP. I believe it's when we started on the Roblox platform, and I may even mention it to you, I believe that potentially the next Super Mario could be built on the Roblox platform.
God, I mean, absolutely. Honestly,
hopefully it's Smashlings.
Yes. There it is. Look, come on. No, honestly, Yon, absolutely. I think if you look at, we're always looking at I remember going into Apple when I was at Mind Candy, and we were launching World of Warriors, which was obviously the difficult second album. But I had no experience of mobile developers. I had no experience of platforms. But I remember sitting with some of the team from Apple, and they were talking about giving us a feature and da-da-da-da. And I said, oh, okay. I said, I understand. I completely understand the model now, because in the old world, what you've just offered me is a prime time slot on a free-to-air channel for my new piece of animation. And I remember these guys saying, no, it's different. I was like, actually, no, it's not. You've offered me a feature, which is the best place to be at the right time to launch. And I think that's what all of these platforms are doing, it the same but different. And what's interesting is that the kids now growing up in Roblox who are absolutely native, and Freddie being that, he's native at 12. So at 18, what the platform is going to give him, it's just going to be intuitive to what he's going to know. And to your point, in those brands, I mean, I really hope Smashlings will be one of the first big global IP to be born from that platform first. Obviously, we're moving into other forms of content and entertainment, but the heartbeat comes from Roblox because, I mean, frankly, as a dad who I can see my own kids obsessed with it, I want to do it for them as well as myself. And I remember watching the CEOs' town halls that are given from the Roblox conferences, etc. And there's always that tick box of a huge IP being born from the platform. And listen, I hope that we do it because I'd love to be part of that tick box in a year, 2 years.
100%. One of the things that attracted me to the platform is that raw creativity that we discussed a few minutes ago about like the sheer talent on that platform. I mean, literally, you have kids who wake up on Friday with an idea and on Sunday there's a game live, right? Of course, it's sketchy and it's weirdy and it's like there's no gameplay loop, but that's what Roblox did, right? They completely demystified the ability or provided tools for anyone, really, a 12-year-old in a bedroom in North London or a 35-year-old professional game developer in Seattle can both use the same tools in a very egalitarian way. However, one of the things that I noticed and one of the reasons why we started Supersocial was because we wanted to build the next generation of content. What I like to say, building for the Roblox of tomorrow, which leads me to the amazing collaboration that we've been having, building the Piñata Smashlings game world that we are launching this week on the Roblox platform. So before we dig in about that, I want you to give like an overview of what is the Piñata Smashlings universe, and first and foremost, how are you thinking about building the franchise as one of the first Metaverse native, kids toy franchises that is anchored on a game world on Roblox first?
Yeah. I mean, I'll start with where it came from. I mean, I was at a party. I watched a piñata be smashed and candy fall out, and I watched kids scramble to this candy, trying to see who could hoover the most, like Hungry Hippos, that old game. And I text Jeff, who's the head of creative at Toikido, and I said, dude, there's an IP in this somewhere. A few days later, he sent me the first image, which was the logo with all the characters around. And we very quickly leaned into intelligent people from the kid space. And the first thing, and I'll come on to the bigger world, but the first thing we were told was you can't break a character. Because if we want to build, and we were building immediately from that one image, I was thinking franchise from that one sketch. And I wanted to lay the right foundation so we didn't have to go over. And so we created this world, the Piñataverse. And originally the concept was that you would hit the piñatas and the little characters would come running out. But we wanted to reduce the violence of that process. So now the little pods come out of a rainbow that follows a whale that comes around the world every 4 minutes or so, and little pods fall out of the rainbow with little feet, and they run off, and then you have to catch the smashling, and then you have to build your smashling collection, and there's a lot more to it. There's the lovely thing, Yon, is whenever I sit with the team, they tell me things I don't know. And so a great example is I was telling them a story of my youngest, and he let a balloon go and the balloon had flown away. And I said he was in tears this morning. And they said, well, just tell him it went to the forest of lost balloons. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And they told me about within the game, there's going to be a forest of lost balloons, and that's where the balloons go when they're let go. So that the depth of story and character was so important for us. And that would allow us to build this franchise. So I know just from my own history of Moshi Monsters and Pokemon when I first started, and we've got a great team who have worked on other brilliant IP from Cartoon Network to Disney and beyond, was depth of character. So there's hundreds of characters in our Piñata world, depth of area and story, and obviously, from developing the game, areas that we continue to unlock new content. We develop story. I mean, Penguin Random House was one of the first partners that we signed to bring into physical merchandise into books. And they loved it because they could see actually the depth of story from the game itself that could be developed, because the characters were not generic. They had depth, they had likes, they had dislikes. There was a rationale to bring certain characters together which would be better than the sum of their parts. They challenged us to have more inclusivity within the world, which was great to be challenged in that way. So we brought some disability, but not in a forced way, in a way that was just natural for the characters. So one of our piñatas has a blade, but is a kangaroo, so it makes perfect sense that it would be able to use the blade to hop higher. So yeah, it was really making sure that we had the fundamentals of a brand in place. And for me, the fundamentals: game, story, publishing, toy. And once you have, it's like building a house on the water. Once you have the solid pylons in the water and you've got your bedrock, then you can start to build up around that. But not before. Don't go too soon. Be patient. And actually, you've been brilliant in this process as well, challenging me into making the right decisions for the game. Because the decisions that I would maybe make from a franchise merchandise standpoint may not work for the game. And as I said in the beginning, the game is the heartbeat for this IP. So we have to do right by the game for the audience and the fans of that first, and then everything else can follow.
100%. And I think this is part of why this has been such an amazing product to build, with an amazing collaboration, because there is that broader vision of a franchise, but the shared understanding that as we launch a game world on the Roblox community, we need to build something that will be fantastic and authentic to the brand, but also authentic to the community. And they're going to be the kind of the beating heart of the community, and are going to pump so much more excitement about the franchise, which is why I think there is that sort of reverse engineering that is now becoming in my opinion, way more exciting for the toy industry and the entertainment industry as a whole, which is how do you build a community, then you build products and you build movies and you build merchandise. And that's what I think still haven't clicked for a lot of people, right? Especially in traditional big entertainment companies.
Yeah, 100%. And if you, to your point earlier, and because we should have this slide in a deck, is if you look at the big global brands, which are still here today, if you look at Mario came from Game Boy, Angry Birds came from mobile, Talking Tom came from YouTube, Moshi came from online. Some of those have lived, some haven't. The ones that have lived have continued to give content updates and been protective and not done too much. And in fairness to Angry Birds, they've regrouped and are doing well now. And obviously now under the Sega franchise. But for me, this is why I believe that we couldn't. And obviously, my best friend John said to me yesterday, "How do you know this is going to work?" And I was like, "I don't." I was like, all we can do is put the right things in the right places. But if the audience doesn't click, then the audience doesn't click. But if it clicks, then I honestly, I don't see, and you're never going to hear me say we're going to be the next Disney, because I think it's the death of new entertainment and brand companies. Nobody's the
second worst to wanting to be the next Disney is to wanting to be the next Pixar.
Yeah, but listen, there's a reason there hasn't been another Disney, because they do what they do so well. Although they also need. God, I wonder if our friend Bob Iger will watch. But if you look at,
look at Disney, Disney is not on Roblox. Pixar is not on Roblox. You haven't seen them coming to these platforms yet. I think for very good reasons for themselves. But back to Smashlings, I believe that the work you guys have done with the foundational IP, the work we did together in building this game world, which is launching this week, which we're really excited about, can truly, and to your point, we don't know, but we believe that it can truly become a generational IP. There's something very unique and very special about the IP. And I think there's something very special about starting with a game world on the world's most engaged platform. People don't know or maybe don't remember, but 2.5 hours per daily users are spent on the Roblox platform, higher than any other internet platform, more than TikTok, almost double TikTok. And that's pretty incredible. And so I think building a foundational IP that has a sense of connection and a community on Roblox, that is an amazing starting point, which is also why we're so excited about the release of the Piñata Smashlings on Roblox this week.
Honestly, I mean, I watched what you guys have built. I've watched the user testing we've done up until now. I've watched the positivity. I sent you my own kids' feedback this week, which was, I mean, the fact they were that engaged to give that feedback was amazing. They're in the room next door playing it now, and they're not playing it because of me. And actually, I'll be honest with you, they're the toughest of my judges in terms of they probably anti-play it because I've asked them to. But yeah, honestly, I think we've created something very unique, something very special. I mean, yesterday I saw the TV spot for the toy, and obviously to see one bring the other alive and then come back. We're doing some firsts here, and I really want us to be a company of firsts in Toikido. We've just recorded, and you'll know, but we've just recorded the Piñata Smashlings theme tune. Now, you and I could have done it probably using this technology that you're recording this podcast with, but we didn't. We went to Abbey Road, the famous studio where the Beatles recorded. We recorded in studio number 3. We recorded with the costume singing. But the reason I did that is everything we're doing with this brand coming from the best platform that we can launch on. I want everything to reflect that. So I wanted the music to be done in the best place that we can use. The merchandise is being made in the best factories, with the best sustainability, with the best recycling that is available at the moment. So all of these things, we're trying to make them the best. And there's a reason, you understand, that Pokemon is still relevant. There's a reason that I just bought a Mickey Mouse Lego set for Bertie. That Mickey Mouse is still around because they kept their bar high. And that's what we have to do here. We have to continue to keep the bar high to make sure that we have that generational relevance. And what I mean by that is brands for me that succeed have generational relevance. Ninja Turtles would be one of them. Mario would be another. Pokemon I keep talking about. I'm obsessed with it. Transformers. And I want Piñata Smashlings, which we built, to be that. I want it to be that generational thing that Freddie and Seb, if they have kids or partners in years to come, that they're like, oh yeah, well, we should buy that because I know where that started.
Well, that's a great place to wrap up the podcast.
Thank you.
Generational IP. Quality is the best business model, and I think that's what we're collectively aspiring for with this IP. And so for those who are listening, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Go check out Piñata Smashlings on Roblox. That is now live on Roblox this week, and stay tuned for all the other amazing stuff that Toikido is going to build around this IP and many more IPs to come. Darran, thank you so much for the partnership and for coming to the podcast today.
Thank you, my friend. Anytime.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Into the Metaverse. We hope you learned a lot and explored new aspects of the Metaverse.